So welcome to the daily webinar, Be Strong Family, Staying Strong and Positive for Ourselves and Our Children. I'm super excited to be here with you today. And let's go to the next slide, Andrew. So today, we're looking at parent engagement through a lens of equity. This week, this has been our series topic for the whole week, parent engagement through a lens of equity. And today, we are going to discuss creating economic equity with families. And I'm your host, Sarita Sashington. Super excited to see you today. Next slide. So for the webinars, we have ways to engage during the webinar. If you aren't talking, please put your phone on mute, which most of you guys are already on mute. When you're ready to comment or you want to come on screen with us and be heard and let your voice be heard, we welcome that. So when you're ready to do either one of those things, please raise your hand and we'll unmute you. And then you'll need to unmute yourself to be heard. Please be patient with us. We read the comments, or I read the comments as we're going through. And please feel free to type your comments in the group chat and make sure it's going to all panelists and attendees. If it just says panelists, it's just going to Andrew and I, okay? And we want everybody to feel included. Hello to everybody coming in. And I just want to give a shout out to Andrew, who's our tech person for today. So making sure we are good to go. All right, next slide. So you guys know how we do it here for the webinars. We want to create an emotionally safe space. So what do we have? Agreements. Yes. Hey, Diana, girl, we're about to be cousins. So agreements. Speak from your own experience and use I statements. We don't, as you're sharing today, we don't want you to talk about other people's experiences, just yours. And yours is powerful and valuable enough. So talk about your I statement. And then golden rule, treat other people the way you want to be treated. This just wraps up all of our parents cafe agreements, right? Like no giving judgment and not asking for advice and things like that. And then so treat other people the way you treat. Full presence, please, no multitasking. We know that you can do a lot of things right now, but we're going to ask you to not do those things, to be fully present with us on your lunch break, no doubt. Okay. And then if you need a minute, take a minute. So I totally understand that. You guys are, on camera and this is your lunch. And if you need to step away, feel free to step away. We'll be right here when you get back. Okay. All right. So I see people dropping I agree in the chat. Thank you to everybody who's agreeing to keep the space safe. Yes. Now I feel like we can keep moving, Andrew. There is a little lag in the things moving. All right. So parent engagement through a lens of equity. This week we're covering this topic and what this looks like. And we're covering this topic and what it looks like. And so this week we've covered 3 kinds of equity. The first being political. And who covered that? The political was with Kathy. And we talked about sharing power with parents. And then yesterday was Sarah Gonzalez, and she covered social, right? And we're talking about navigating interpersonal relationships in real time with parents. And then today we are talking about economic equity. And I like to refer to it as putting your money where your mouth is when it comes to parent engagement. Okay. And you can see all of these. If you missed them, you can catch them on our YouTube channel. Okay. So if you're not subscribing to YouTube, feel free to subscribe to YouTube where you can catch the replay of any of these webinars, just in case you didn't know. All right. So let's keep going. Let's get into it. What is economic equity? So I gave a little blurb, but what do you think? What does economic equity mean to you? Before I show you the definition that we have for it, what is economic economic equity to you? And so I talked a little bit about it, and I'll say for me, I always feel like economic equity is like really putting your money where your mouth is. So many people talk about parent engagement. You want to have parent engagement, want to have parent engagement, but then it doesn't show up like that, right? They want to have it, they want to engage parents, but they don't attach a dollar sign to it. It's almost like I think for me, in my experience, hearing people say things like, you know, like we want to, people saying things like, if parents care about their children, they should just come. So we don't put money aside for food, or we don't put money aside to build out the engagement, or creative ways to get parents engaged, right? So what is economic equity you? Thank you, Diana. She said savings. Yeah. Anyone else? And remember, this is in regards to parent engagement, right? So what do you think economic equity is in regards to parent engagement? Yeah, you can type your answer in the chat, or you can raise your hand. We appreciate either one. If you raise your hand, we're going to pull you on screen with us. And I always enjoy that too. Having funding for our community, Christina. Thank you, having funding for our community. All right, Andrew, let's see what the definition of economic equity is. Economic equity encompasses paying for the contributions of the parents you want to engage. What? Paying for the contributions of the parents you want to engage? So my experience has been people saying things like, oh, let's see what Janine is saying. Providing the same family engagement opportunities to families despite their economic demographics, coming up with creative ways to bridge the economic gap. Yes, Janine, yes. I have 3 young adults, but I remember when they were in school, I was like the world's best volunteer. And some of the things that I would hear in regards to parents would just grieve my whole spirit, because I heard things like, we don't need to pay the parents. If they love their children, they'll just come. I was a parent coordinator, and I heard things like, what do you need a cell phone for? What? I am trying to engage parents. This isn't 1960 anymore. I need a phone. I need a laptop. What do you need a laptop for? Or what do you need a desktop for? Can't you just work with Title I people? The Title I crew to get what you need? I'm like, no, what do you mean? Can I work with the Title I crew to get what I need? There's money in this budget for parent engagement, right? This is because I was working with an after school program, and they wanted me to not use the monies that they had set aside for parent engagement, but instead to try to work with Title I parents and convince them that they needed to use their money for whatever the program thought they need to use their money for. That's a little crazy. Yeah. All right. Let's go to the next one. So what are some examples of why am I saying that wrong? Economic equity. Treat parents the way you would treat staff. Value their time, their expertise, and budget appropriately as an organization for their involvement and engagement. So what does that look like? My experience has been being a part of two different boards in the school. So I remember being a part of one board that had majority staff on it and 1 or 2 parents, and then being a part of a whole parent team where they were making maybe Title I or something to that effect. And because the administrators were over the Title I stuff, right? Then when the parents had a meeting, we couldn't have food. We don't have money in the budget for it. Or this is what the administrators would tell us, right? We don't have money in the budget for food. Or you can just have chicken or pizza. Meanwhile, on the other hand, when I would be in this board meeting with the have majority of the community, professionals and people who were coming into the school. I mean, they had a spread. These people were eating good. And I saw that in various different organizations where parents were involved. They wanted to engage parents, but when it came to parents having things or whatever, food, being paid for their time, those things just didn't happen. They didn't happen, right? Parents would come, parents were used more of a token, right? We have parents, yeah, we do parent leadership, but if you ask them how the parents are in leadership, there isn't a word for it. Or if you ask them, are they paying? We don't really have a budget for that. But you know what happens is every year there's an opportunity to create your budget or decide how that money is going to be used. Every year you can make a choice. People can make a choice, or there are agencies, or they can advocate for a line item to be put in the budget, a line item that says parent stipends, a line item that says food, a line item that says, for parent events, whatever, something that says we value you and we appreciate you and you're not just a token, right? And guys, feel free to put your thoughts as I'm talking. Feel free to put your thoughts in the chat. We don't have to wait for the question, right? Always compensate collaborators for their time, improving resources and services. This is good too, because we pay everyone else. Well, agencies will usually pay everyone else when they're participating in something. And for whatever reason, when it comes to parents, there isn't that same consideration given. But that would be an example if we actually did that, right? If we can compensate the collaborators. So I'm just going to use Be Strong Families as an example. One of the reasons why I decided to work for Be Strong Families, and I do say I decided to work because I had lots of people who were trying to get me to come work for them. And the reason why I chose Be Strong Families is because they put their money where their mouth is. Meaning, when they said we really appreciate parents, we really, we appreciate parents, we support parents. They didn't just say they support parents. I guess, got to catch. They didn't say we support parents by way of, just having staff, but they also supported parents by way of paying us. So when parents help with decks, right? So for parent cafes, parents are paid to host cafes. Parents are paid to work cafes. They're paid to create decks for us. They're paid as focus groups to review curriculum, to be a part of curriculum development, right? We pay them for their time. Why? Because everyone else in the room, staff included, is being paid for their time. And when we bring other professionals in and we include parents in the mix, they get paid because we want to make sure that everybody feels valued, right? Feels valued, right? And not just in word, but also in deed. Dana said, can you imagine DCFS? I'm going to say, Diana said, I'm in the parent policy council. Can I get paid for that? I don't know if you can get paid for being in the parent policy council, but there should be some way that they are compensating you for showing up. And because when parents show up, let me just say this, without parents, agencies don't have their services, their quotas, their, benchmarks that they need to make. All those things can't happen if they don't have parents involved. Our children are in the schools, right? Without our children, you don't have schools that are happening, right? So then if their programs are looking good because parents are showing up, well, then why don't we value that? And how do we show that we value outside of just saying, yeah, we really value parents, but we don't share political power with them? Or let me just say, it's an opportunity to share political power. It's an opportunity to share social equity, right? To navigate those interpersonal relationships in real time. And it's also important to be able to compensate them for their time. So Dana said, can you imagine if DCFS offered payments, incentives for parents to participate instead of threatening them with the loss of their children? On which, Dana, Yes, definitely. Janice says, yes, I love that. Diana said, yes, because, well, us parents are the first teachers. Yes, we're valuable. We bring value to every program that we're a part of. Parents bring value to that. It gets better because we're involved, not worse. And then consider your parameters, right? Cost of living, budget, demographic, types of incentives. We understand that everybody can't do the same things. You may have from a large organization, may come from a small organization. We understand that everyone can't do anything, can't do everything the same, but it should be something, right? So for instance, cost of living, if I'm in California, California is still a bit expensive. Pay your parents according to where they live, right? Cost of living. So if you're in California, you're not like $8 an hour, $5 an hour. That's ludicrous. Think of that, right? Um, so and it will look different from California to say Chicago or a smaller place, Missouri, maybe, right? Budget, maybe you don't have a huge budget, but what can you do within your budget? I think this is about, the intentionality of creating economic equity. What can you do within your budget, right? Ask the parents. We can't do, if we don't have a big budget, we can't do XYZ, but we can do. What can you do? What are you willing to do? And then demographics. The demographics are, for instance, in California, um, we have a lot of the Spanish speaking community, right? Well, some of them are undocumented and they can't get paid by check. So then we pay them by gift cards, right? Because just because it doesn't look like we can't pay them the way that we're used to paying the other team members doesn't mean that we shouldn't pay them at all. No, consider the demographic and what we have to work for. And then I heard someone else say incentives too, types of incentives. So, when you build relationship with parents, it's okay to ask them, we really want to support you and we want to really put our money where our mouth is. How can we do that, today? We don't have that much of a budget, but we do have this. Or what are some ways that we can support you that you would feel supported, you would feel valued, right? So the type of incentives make a difference as well. So just think about those things because these are all examples of economic equity, the ways that we show up, right? In action. In action. All right. Please feel free to drop your thoughts in the chat. While I'm talking and going along, just feel free. So, economic equity in your program. Let's talk about it. Let's have discussion. What is your experience in creating economic equity for families? And how does it show up in your program? So, I'm gonna give you guys a chance to get in the chat. Again, Andrew is reminding us to type the answer in the chat or raise your hand and we'll unmute you because we love to hear from you. And I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I'm so passionate because I was a parent I am a parent, but I was in the school system. And I encountered so many of these different ways of people being unequitable that I'm super excited that we're having the conversation of how to create more equity in our agencies, in our schools, and our programs for parents. So what's your experience creating economic equity for families and how does it show up in your program? And again, I can, for Be Strong Families, anything that our parent team, we have a national parent cafe team, right? So these are the people who host our cafes. They're ambassadors for Be Strong Families. It's made up of, parents and family members who love cafes. If you're interested and you have cafe experience, that's a wink. Did I just go out? Andrew, I don't know if you can still hear me. You can send me a chat because my screen just went completely out. If you can send me a text because I just lost. All right. So, and Andrew, I'll need you to just maybe take over because I can't hear or read the chat if there's some chat, something in the chat. You can go ahead and read it. Okay, great. I'm all good, but I can't see the screen, Andrew. So do you have anything in the chat yet? And you can send it to me in a text.
Nothing in the chat yet, but I'll be sure to text it to you.
All right. So let me know if there's something in the chat. You can do say, Sarita, we have something in the chat. So when we talk about, economic equity in the in our program for Be Strong Families, we do pay parents, because the National Parent Cafe team, they host cafes for us all over the country, right, via Zoom. And they influence all of our curriculum. They're a part of when we create decks. When we create curriculum, we pay them. If they attend meetings, they also sit on, so we have a lot of collaborative efforts and partnership meetings. And we have sometimes agencies say, we don't have parents, right? We're creating curriculum for parents and we don't have parents. We don't have any parent representation. Well, then Be Strong Families, our National Parent Cafe team, they then, as parents, will sit on the board and provide parent views, right? Which is super important to us. And we pay them for that time because we value what they bring to the table. Their time is just as valuable as mine, as Andrew's, as Kathy's, as Sarah, right? So, how does this show up, right? What is your experience creating economic equity for families, and how does it show up in your program? Is no one doing that yet? All right. Christina said, when we do our support groups, we give $50 incentives to families that join us. Yes. Come through, Christina. Anybody else? Anyone else? So the other thing that I'm aware of is showing up in the program. When we started Be Strong Families, all of our curriculum, matter of fact, cafes were created for parents, by parents, with parents. One of our unique experiences was that when we started Be Strong, it was created by people we were all parents, right? And knew that this work needed to continue. And so now we have a whole agency, and parents are at the forefront of that work and everything that we do. So let's see. Janine said, we have paid parents for participating in our parent advocacy work groups. We have given them free learning materials for their children as well. Thank you for that. I just want to say this, and those things are, both of those things, Christina and Janine, are really great. And I guess I want to consider too that most times parents who are coming to our programs, bringing their children, utilizing our services, helping us to be great agencies or organizations, oftentimes those parents are low income or don't have a lot of money coming in. And so whenever we're ready to, whenever we can provide a little more to help, oh my gosh, it's so appreciated. It's so much more appreciated than mere words. So we can go to the next question, Andrew. What are the barriers to economic equity? If you can't see an example of economic equity happening, what are some barriers to economic equity? Okay, Ms. Ortiz, because your name is beautiful, I don't want to mess it up. It says we provide incentives like dinner is on us, and tickets to a local horse farm. Yes, anything. Let me see. Someone else said, in addition to providing meals and door prizes. Yes, you know how important meals are. If I'm a parent, when I'm a parent and my kids were younger, to go to a program that actually provided good food and childcare, so that I wouldn't have to, go home and cook dinner after I come from a meeting. Wow. Or be able to enjoy the meeting because they're providing childcare. Absolutely amazing, right? So Janine said we also provided childcare. Yes. Or incentives like tickets to events that they wouldn't be able to, otherwise afford. You know, I remember getting tickets to like the ice shows, skating on ice, and Sesame Street, things like that. Those little things really go a long way. So maybe you don't have a budget, but maybe somebody in your agency really knows how to make those community networks or community connections, knows how to collaborate, right? Doing that goes a long, like your actions go a long way further than just thank you and really appreciate it, especially when everyone else at the place, the agency, is being compensated in some way for their time. Anyone else? So we got 3 minutes. Anyone else? What are some barriers to economic equity? Dana said, I would imagine in an agency like State Child Welfare, the sheer volume of parents involved is overwhelming to budgets. Yes, it is. Diana said, well, I would like to join. Well, Diana, hey, cousin, you've been with me a week. Yes, you know what? Andrew, you can drop my contact info in there for Diana. Actually, National Cafe Team at BeStrongFamilies.net. National Cafe Team at BeStrongFamilies.net. Yes, Dana, it would be overwhelming, but I think that's the intentionality of it, right? The intentionality being we really want to, incentivize, I don't know how to say that word, parent, so that they do, show up for their kids. And you're right, instead of threatening them to take away their kids, these are some of the ways that we can help you build up the kids, right? And they need money, right? Or they need extra help. A little extra help goes a long, 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 long way. Any other barriers? Okay, so it is 12:29. Let's see, we're almost over. Christina says some barriers are that some agencies have the funding but do not want to use it. Boom! Christina, you just said something. You just said something. But I think I'm going to say this because this topic of different types of equity really goes in line with how we view parents, parent engagement through the lens of equity. How do we view parents? And because the view is all cloudy and the lens that we have is so I don't know, jacked up a lot of times, not gonna say we, the lens that are used sometimes are so jacked up that it stops us from seeing the value that parents bring to our programs. And you're right, they don't want to use it, which they should. Okay. Yes, Andrew. Thank you so much. National Cafe Team at BeStrongFamilies.net. You got it. So why do you think this is important? Economic, I don't know, I want to use a Q, economic equity. Why do you think it's important at all? I don't know, guys. I don't, are you guys rocking with me, or do you think this conversation is helpful? I don't know that I'm seeing a lot of interaction in the chat as usual. Usually,
Christina
do you
says,
think it's important?
sorry,
Go
Sarita.
ahead. No, please, go
Christina
ahead.
says to help those in need. And I would also say, since Sarita is having some tech issues with her chat, if you'd like to raise your hand and I can unmute you, that'd be a great way to answer this question as well.
Thank you, Andrew. All right. So it is 12:30, and thank you guys for being a part of today's conversation. I appreciate what you bring to every conversation, whether it's a little bit or a lot, because we would not have these webinars, would not be successful without you. I think economic equity is important because I appreciate when someone, love is an action word. And I love parents. I love being a parent. I love working with other parents. I love engaging parents, and putting my money where my mouth is super important to me. And I think when economic equity is involved, right? And we're showing them that we value them by being intentional about creating line items so that we can meet a need, or providing incentives, or going a little bit, outside of our comfort zones. I think that that only brings more value and adds more value to not only the parents, but to our programs. So economic equity is super important. And I really, really hope that this conversation gave you something to think about, something to consider as you are, engaging parents. All right. So we can go to the next one. Our August English webinars, the rest of the week. Tomorrow, if you haven't signed up for the Taste of Parent Cafes, More Perfect Union, do so today. I think Andrew's probably gonna drop that in the chat. I don't know if he will or not, but on the website, just like you signed up for this, you can sign up for tomorrow's Parent Cafe. I'll be there hosting tomorrow's cafe. And then we have Vicarious Trauma and Vicarious Resilience next Monday with Tiffany Murphy. Effects of Vicarious Trauma with Robin Harvey, Using the Vitality Domains with Nadia Washington. And then Thursday, we have a mini workshop, Trauma Relieving Yoga with Kristen Robinson. You know that we love you. We appreciate you being here with us today. We can go to the next slide, Andrew. Join us for our upcoming parent engagement through a lens of equity workshop. Whoop, whoop. Wednesday, September 15th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I know that Andrew is going to drop the link in the chat. And so thank you guys for being with us today. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I hope it's giving you some food for thoughts. Okay. And thanks for